So today we're going to talk about one of the most famous names in Irish history, the Black and Tans. We're going to talk about why were they in Ireland, who they were, where did they get their name, why do they have such a huge name in Irish history, and a few myths about the Black and Tans. First of all, welcome back to the channel, lads. If you want to sign up to my Patreon, you're going to get early access to all of these videos. I'm going to leave a link to my Patreon down in the description. Otherwise, to keep up to date for future videos, make sure you follow my Instagram, which will also be linked below. So first of all, why were they in Ireland? Right, so let's jump back to 1919 to 1921 during the Irish War of Independence. The police force in Ireland were called the Royal Irish Constabulary, or the RIC. The RIC consisted of about 10,000 men in Ireland at the time, and at the beginning of the Irish War of Independence, they were getting overstretched and really struggling to gain control over the Irish Republican Army. So in January of 1920, they began recruiting reinforcements from Britain. Number 2, who were they? So as I said, in January of 1920, they began recruiting reinforcements from Great Britain. However, not all of these men were British. Majority were English, but there was also some Welsh, some Scottish, some American, and believe it or not, even some Irish. A lot of these men would have been veterans of World War I, and the average age of a Black and Tan was 26 years old. If you look at the stats of the nationalities of the Black and Tans, it might be a bit throwing. So it says around 65% English, 19% Irish, 14% Scottish, and 2% Welsh and American. Now it's important to note that these percentages are estimates and they're not exactly facts. And a lot of historians have debated this for years. A lot of people would say 5% would have been Irish. 19 does seem very high, to be honest, as there was so many Irishmen leaving the Royal Irish Constabulary at the time because they were getting a bad name and the Black and Tans were actually intimidating them. So the fact that they say that 19% of Black and Tans were Irish, I find kind of hard to believe. I would be more in favour of agreeing with the historians that there was about 5%, but to be honest, there's no way of knowing, so it probably lands somewhere between 5% and 19%. And you might ask, why did people join the RIC at the time? Well, there was huge unemployment rates in Great Britain and in Ireland. There was over 200,000 unemployed veterans in Britain at the time. Number 3, where did the name Black and Tans come from? Well, as these men arrived in Ireland, seamstresses all over the country were on strike, so they very quickly ran out of the bottle green RIC uniform. So as the new recruits arrived, they started wearing a combination of the bottle green RIC uniform. They wore a cap and trousers, and they also wore the British military khaki pants. And also the term Black and Tan also comes from the Kerry beagles that were used in the Scarteen hunt in Limerick. On the 25th of March 1920, a Limerick Echo newspaper writer by the name of Christopher O'Sullivan saw his first Black and Tan at Limerick Junction in County Tipperary, and he reported the following. He measured up to about 5'6" and could scarcely weigh 10 stone. I would associate him with the Palace Green Scarteen hunt to judge by the colour of his cap and trousers. Now I suppose it's important to note that the RIC uniform was mainly a bottle green colour, which is a really dark green. It appeared black to most, and hence that's how they got the name Black and Tans. Number 4, why do they have such a huge name in Irish history? Well, quickly after the Tans arrived in Ireland, they quickly got a name for inhumane violence like Ireland has never seen before. They were a gun-happy group that terrorised the country. They killed civilians, they killed children, they looted houses, and they just caused overall terror all around the country. To give you one example of what some of the Black and Tans did, they tied 2 young Irish boys to the back of their truck. They drove at high speed down a road until the 2 bodies were mangled, and then they dumped their bodies in a ditch. And that is a brief description of what the Irish Republican Army were fighting against. The Black and Tans were sent all around the country of Ireland. However, the majority were sent to the most dangerous counties in Ireland. Number 1 being Cork, number 2 being Tipperary, and then Kerry, Limerick, Clare and Galway. Finally, we're going to talk about a few myths about the Black and Tans. Myth number 1 is that they were the worst group in Ireland. A lot of people use the term Tans as kind of a blanket term for all British constables that were in the country, and they forget about the Auxies, or else they include the Auxies under the Tan name. Some of the worst atrocities in Ireland were actually performed by the Auxies and not necessarily the Black and Tans. Now that's not to say that the Black and Tans weren't that bad, I'm just saying people tend to forget about the auxiliaries. If you look at Bloody Sunday, Croke Park, November 1920, that was actually the auxiliary division of the Royal Irish Constabulary. If you look at the Clonmult ambush in Cork, February 1921, that was also the auxiliaries. Myth number 2, and this is actually a very common one that I hear in Ireland, is that the Black and Tans were recruited from prisons in Britain. This is actually completely untrue. The Tans were not recruited from prisons whatsoever. The majority of them were just veterans of World War I. If any man had a criminal record, they were completely disqualified from joining the Royal Irish Constabulary. Right, I hope that helped you out and that benefited you in learning about who the Black and Tans were and what they did in Ireland and why they were in Ireland. If you want to support the channel, lads, and you want early access to all my videos and you're going to get behind the scenes vlogs, you can sign up to my Patreon, which I'll have linked below. Otherwise, if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'll have that link below as well. And other than that, please hit a like on the video, drop a comment below of any other videos you'd like to see, and thanks a million for watching. I'll see you in the next one.